Welcome to Design Domination, where you'll learn to become a better, more business-savvy designer so you can dominate your competition. Hi, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Colleen Grotzer, and in this episode of Design Domination, I'm talking all about brand style guides. Stay tuned to find out what a brand style guide is, why it's important, who should get one, what's in it, and where to get my template for one. Are you loving and leaving your clients after you design a logo for them? Do you just hand over the final logo files and walk away? Or do you provide a brand style guide along with those files so that the client has guidance on how to use the logo? If you're not providing a brand style guide, you're missing out on an opportunity to position yourself as an expert, not just a doer, and to add value to your work, and to charge more for that added value. Okay, so let's start off by talking about what a brand style guide even is. A brand style guide may also be called a brand guide, brand standards, brand identity guide, or brand guidelines. Whatever you or the client want to call it, a brand style guide is a document for clients and any vendors, other designers, a copywriter, or a printer for them to refer to. Whenever you design a logo, it's really good practice to also create and provide a style guide. In other cases, like if you're designing other materials, not a logo, so a brochure or a website, let's say, then the client may provide you with their existing logo and brand guide, and that's so you can follow the guidelines that they already have in place. Now, a brand guide could be only a few pages long, or it may be close to 100 pages. I've seen one that was as many as 72 pages for a worldwide organization. Now let's talk about why brand guidelines are important. A brand guide dictates how a company wants to represent itself in the marketplace, how they want to be perceived. So the brand guide, at least when it's adhered to, we can only do so much, right? The brand guide acts as a compass, guiding employees and vendors on what to do and even what not to do about how the brand should look and feel and even sound. The brand guide helps them consistently communicate, visually, verbally, and even in writing. And that consistency builds trust with the client's audience, and it demonstrates to them what the company stands for. So who needs a brand style guide? Well, not every client needs an extensive brand guide. One person or small businesses could possibly get by with just a guide of only a few pages talking about just the visual elements. I think that every client should, at a minimum, get a guide that details their brand colors and typefaces so that they can also maintain that consistency in-house. But the larger the company, the more people involved, the more people that come and go over time, and the greater the potential for someone to go rogue and not follow the guidelines. Now, in these cases, you may have several departments referring to this brand guide, customer service, sales, marketing, design, and communications departments. And some clients may even have multiple offices or be a franchise. And so even more people need to be made aware of these guidelines. Everyone needs to be on the same page to understand the brand and to know how to convey everything consistently. And so in these cases where we have large companies and different departments and so forth, it's even more important to create an extensive brand guide, and the greater the value that will have as well. And of course, charge more in those cases too. So let's talk about what's in a brand style guide. So we've got visual elements, right? We've got information about the logo and any visual elements and how they should be used. When it comes to the logo, some things that you would want to include are showing the acceptable color versions of the logo, specifying the amount of clear space around the logo, the minimum size that the logo should be used, placement of the logo on various types of backgrounds, and how to scale the logo properly. Next, we have the color palette. The brand guide should show the colors that you used in the logo, and the color information should include colors for printing and for the web. So for print, you want to list the Pantone colors and CMYK values. What a lot of designers don't do, however, is check the uncoded Pantone guide to see how those colors will appear on uncoated paper. There are a lot of colors that shift to another color on uncoated paper. I've mentioned on the podcast quite a few times in the past how one of my clients uses 123, which is yellow, but on uncoated stock, it actually becomes more orange. So in their brand guidelines, I spec'd 123 for coated papers only and 115 for uncoated papers to ensure that that yellow is going to stay yellow, whichever paper they printed on. And the reason this happens is because uncoated paper soaks up more of the ink, and that makes the colors appear darker. Uncoated paper doesn't reflect light as much as coated paper does either. Another example is that for one of that client's other colors, which is a darker color, I spec'd that as a slightly different CMYK build for the uncoated version. So that has about 20% less black in it than the coated version because of how much darker it will appear on uncoated paper. Now, a lot of dark blues look more purple or blue-violet on uncoated paper. It's important to always check the Pantone guides and then address this where necessary. And then for the web, you would list the RGB values and hexadecimal codes. Now keep in mind, it's a really good idea to let the client know that different monitors and web browsers and platforms, like Mac versus PC, can display these colors slightly differently. I mean, if I'm on a Mac, look at my website in Chrome, Safari, or Opera, the orange looks the same. When I view it in Firefox, the orange is much more vibrant. Now, if you're including a full color palette and not just the colors used in the logo design, then you'd want to provide the same values for each of those colors as well. And you can also specify which are the primary colors to be used and which are secondary colors. You could also even show tints of each color too. Next is typography. A brand guide should definitely address typefaces. Which serif typeface? Which sans serif typeface? Which typefaces to use if those are not available to whoever's, working on something. Those fonts could be Georgia and Arial or something else that you choose. Where to use each typeface, such as for headings or body text, if that's applicable. And, that could involve you showing screenshots of various types of materials and then pointing out the styles that are used in various places on the page. And then where to get the typefaces. And that could be a folder on the client server, a hyperlink to download them from Google Fonts, or a link to where to purchase them online. Next, we have imagery. A brand guide could address which types of imagery the client should use going forward. Photos, illustrations, icons, or custom photography even. You could even detail what type of content they should look for in the imagery, meaning what should they look for images of, plus the style and the crop that they should look for. You could also even provide size guidelines for different uses. For example, the size of the homepage image, the size of a blog page image, the size of an image used on a cover template, and even social media image sizes. If there's a certain style to be used for bar graphs, pie charts, and infographics, then examples of those could be shown as well. Now let's talk about design elements. So if you've created some design elements as part of a client's branding, you could address how those are to be used. Maybe it's certain colors, certain opacity, or placement. So maybe it's always in the same place on a brochure or a publication cover, or maybe it's always used as a background image. Now let's talk about templates. A brand guide, especially one for a large company, could display images of their letterhead and their business cards, their email signature, a press release template, social media templates, and acceptable variations of any publication cover designs, newsletter layout, and PowerPoint templates. You could even go so far as to show placement of the logo on front and back covers, if there's a requirement by them for that, and then how to place any design elements. Another idea would be to show image of the preferred grid that you used in InDesign, showing options for 1, 2, 3, or more columns, as well as the width that would be used for a sidebar. Let's talk paper. The client may have no preference at all for paper, but some, and this would be more typical of larger, more corporate clients, might want to use certain paper stocks to help achieve a certain look or to further advance their branding, convey something to their audience about this choice of paper. For instance, Yupo is a really cool synthetic paper that's waterproof. So that can come across as cool and durable. Or maybe you have a client who wants to be seen as eco-friendly, so they only want to use tree-free paper, like Yupo, that's a synthetic paper, or something recycled or FSC certified. And maybe they want to use certain cover weights and finishes for publication covers, and then specific text weights and finishes for text pages. So maybe it's, a 100-pound glossy cover for a publication cover, and maybe it's 70-pound uncoated for text pages in their publication. Now, if you've done brand strategy work for the client, the brand guide could also address brand messaging and tone. And this is the wording that the client should use when communicating verbally or in writing. Some points to consider for this would be, should the language that they use be formal and professional? Should it be technical jargon? Should it be cool and hip? Or should it be fun and friendly? And of course, this depends on their audience, but this is something that you could specify in the guide. Now, Chewy.com is a really cool example that I can use to explain messaging. Chewy sells pet products, and their site has a fun, friendly feel to it. They have lots of helpful videos on there too, and even those are fun and reflect the brand. But the most clever part is how they communicate with you one-on-one. Whenever you chat with them online, they always greet you with, "Woof, how may I help you?" or something similar to that. They also often ask your pets' names and tell them to give them a pet for them at the end of the chat. And that's the style of how they always talk to customers. And they also send out personalized cards during the holidays to thank ongoing customers. So the visual parts of their brand, plus the customer service, and their messaging, everything, it all ties together. And it makes for an amazing experience. I mean, it feels so awesome. In fact, I wish all companies were like them. Most companies could learn a lot from them, but I digress. A brand guide could also include information about the company's mission, vision, and values. This lets employees understand the background and the goals that they're working towards, and the values that they need to always keep in mind when communicating on behalf of the company. So everything is presented cohesively. It could also include the company's unique positioning statement, which is what sets them apart from the competition. Even who their target audience is. We exist to serve blank with blank. A resources section could optionally be added, and that could include information such as where to find the logo file formats on their servers or on an intranet, where they might find existing templates in InDesign, Word, and PowerPoint, where to download typefaces, preferred places to buy stock images, preferred editorial style guides, such as, if they use Chicago, MLA, AP, or AMA, or some other style guide, a list of preferred vendors, so those could be outside designers, printers, mail houses, etc., and their contact information, and a glossary of design and printing terms. So you can see there is no set way to create a brand guide, and there can be quite a lot depending on the needs and size of the client. I've made all of this a lot easier, so I hope, by creating a brand style guide template for you, and that's available for purchase. So if you go to creative-boost.com and then click on resources and then premiums, you can click on the brand style guide template. Or you can go to this episode, episode 51, and get the link on that page. The template is 17 pages, and it is set up with minimal design so that you can easily modify it to accommodate the client's branding. And it makes use of master pages and paragraph, character, and object styles. And I put lots of notes and guidance about what to include for a basic guide as well as for a more comprehensive guide. So if you've never done this before, my hope is that you will find this super easy to know exactly what to do and where to put it. And it also has the core sections already set up with text that you can fill in with the client's information and modify as you please. But there's no dummy text. I mean, there's like some stuff that you need to fill in with client information, but other than that, there's explanatory text for the client that's ready to go. And I've also included in the package a PDF of a sample finished brand guide, so you can see how that would look. Like you can use that as a guide. But I recommend you change the design to suit your client. And again, the brand style guide template can be found at creative-boost.com, and click on resources and then premiums, and click on the brand style guide template, or go to this episode 51, and grab the link there. If you liked this content, please leave a review and share it on social media. Do you need help enhancing your design skills or working through a freelancing issue? Go to creative-boost.com to apply for design mentoring. Also, check out the free resources and join us in the Design Domination Facebook group.